They are having a horrible time.
They took care of business. They're clutching in the search and destroys, and they're dominating in the control.
I do feel like Minnesota is a very fundamentally sound team.
Welcome to Reverse Sweeps Power Rankings, presented by USAA Insurance. We're getting toward the end of the year. That means the power rankings starting to settle into what we can expect from Enable and Pacman. Let's look really quickly at the results. This is the final week of regular play, guys, before the major, and then champs. And, well, New York squeaking out a win 3-2 over Paris, but that would be the only win they would see for the week. Dallas getting a 2-0, taking out Seattle, and also taking out Toronto. OpTic getting reverse swept by LA Thieves, one of the big standout moments, and a nice win from Minnesota, 3-0 over Florida Mutineers. A great game for them as well. And let's take a look. How does that play out in our groups for stage 5, guys? OpTic on top over Atlanta FaZe in Group A, both with a 4-1 record. Group B, Dallas Empire and Toronto as well, sitting in those first and second spots. And down there, all very, very lonely at the bottom, Paris Legion and LA Gorillas. Gorillas, the only team that could not win a series. Not a great time for them, and it reflects in the power rankings. Let's bring it up. What Enable and Pacman have put together for this week. Gorillas, we ended with them, and, well, they start the bottom of our power rankings, guys. 12th place, LA Gorillas. Talk to me about them, Pacman.
Here's the good thing for LAG, is they likely have one more match left total as a unit, hopefully. And that's it. And that's it. And then after that, individually, I'm sure the players still feel confident in themselves, but the unit just doesn't work. And maybe they'll find their way onto other pro teams. Who knows? Or maybe LAG might hold on to a couple of them. Who knows? But at least this should be the end of the core. Like this should be it, and they can start trying to get things going in the right direction. Like that's the positive side, because I mean clearly they stink. So
You know what? I'm feeling good today. I got something positive too. There's two ways to look at it, okay? Because if I was the GM of LAG, I would them boys would have been gone a long time ago. But you have to give them respect. They try to stick it out all year with the core. You see this happen, you know, in traditional sports all the time. Even when it doesn't work, they stuck it out. So they obviously believed in this team, at least the core 3 and Cilia, Sol, and App. And, you know, in some weird way, you have to respect it. I personally don't, but they tried.
Was this the positive? This the positive spin? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like a backhanded compliment. Like, I respect it. They believed in their squad. The absolute wrong take. Okay, they should have dropped them boys off at the bus stop 6 months ago. But, so, you know, they tried. It just didn't work out. It happens.
Here's the thing. They were, I think I want to say through 2 stages, they were still top 8. Maybe even 3.
Top 8, yeah.
Because of whatever happened early on in the year. And that's the negative, if you want to take the other side of that, is that we all knew, everyone knew, that they could have and should have made a move so they could be going to champs right now. At least have a better chance.
Should have built around Vivid. Should have built around Vivid.
We all know that. But it is what it is.
My grandma knows that. She's not here with us. Rest in peace. Yeah, but you know, they stuck it through, Katie. That's my positive take. I can respect that, I guess.
Ian, sometimes. All right. I do want to mention, I think Assault, I'm pretty sure it was Assault. Might have deleted some of his tweets, but he did tweet this. Don't think I've ever been so sad in my entire career competing. Just nothing to ever show for, and feels like wasted effort trying to get better. So lost at what to even do. I mean, that just kind of sums up the whole year for them, right? I mean,
now I look like a horrible person. So
that was random timing. That timing was awful.
No,
I mean, my bad.
It's true though, Katie, and we've talked about it before. But I do think, especially with the news on Clay, it's good to talk about. I've been in that exact situation before. I felt exactly how Assault and probably the whole team feels right now. So I do feel for him, because you know, I know going into the year they probably believed in the team. And like John said, they were top 8 for the beginning part of this season. Yeah. You know, even though we kind of knew and everyone knew, like, they're going to get, you know, passed up here soon enough. it sucks because it's really hard to set apart your happiness and your work, especially when you play video games for a living. So I get that, because this job can also be very volatile. You do have one bad season and you might be out of the league next year. And, you know, if you don't have the stock, it might be really hard to work back up. I had to do that. And, like, I don't know, maybe some of these players, like Assault's a world champion and he got MVP at that event. Like, he might not want to go through challengers again, you know? So it leaves a lot of uncertainty, I guess, going forward in the future. And it's not a good thing. So I do feel for him. I do, but once again, their ass. I don't know. I can't lie. Like, they suck.
You're trying to separate them as people and you know, their feelings
and their
emotions,
and their play,
and then just simply what they show us when they hop into Moscow and they get on the map. Like, they're two completely different things. We wish them all the best, but they stink as a team. Right? Like,
I think we did pretty good, Katie, because normally we roast them, you know.
No. I just wanted to maybe add some sad context, but context nonetheless. Let's talk about London, Paris, and Seattle, because they did not move alongside Gorilla's guys. You had 9 through 12. None of them moved the positions they were in. So Seattle still 11th, Paris still 10th, London still 9th. Pacman, anything of note to say about them, or just it is what it is? Your favorite phrase?
Yeah, it is what it is. Not really anything to talk about. Seattle beat LAG. They won. I guess they were calling it the Toilet Bowl. I will say that
Pee-wee comedy.
I guess the orgs and like the social medias are having fun with it, but I was reading it like, this is kind of sad, pathetic. Like, you guys are like making up this like this big thing about being last. Like, this is kind of whack. Maybe if you just had a bad season. This is 2 back-to-back terrible seasons for both of you guys, and you guys are trying to make it cool. Like, it's whack. It's super. It's like,
yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's funny in terms of just like the internet and entertainment, but when you're trying to legitimize the sport itself, you know, you got to be able to read the room if you're the social media managers or whatever. Like, you know, it could be funny maybe if you're a really good team and you slip up,
right?
You know, like when FaZe lost to LAG earlier in the year, or if it is early in the season, there's a lot of time left, you could poke some fun. But it's like, when you've been in this spot for a long time, you can't be meme tweeting. Like, I mean, well, you can and you should, in my opinion, because I laugh at it. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just not a good look. You know, it's not a good look. But I do want another positive. Classic had a 1.2 in the series, so I think Seattle looked good in that series. But they can't move them because they're not going to champs.
Yeah, that's tough, guys. It's solidified. If you did not already know the bottom 4, well, they are staying the bottom 4. There is no shot that they will make it to champs. A reminder, though, reverse sweep is presented by USAA Insurance. They make it super easy to insure all of your stuff, like your rigs and gear, and they have your back. Eligibility restrictions apply. Insurance provided by United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas. Let's move on up these power rankings, guys. Let's talk about New York. You bumped him down 2 slots, down to 8th. They are having a horrible time, Ian. What's going on with New York?
I feel bad for New York because they've actually had a lot of success and they looked good this year with all the obstacles that they had. You know, when you look back, Zuma had to step down because of his hand. The multiple team changes. Clay ended up teaming with basically, you know, 2 rookies and Seam, who is still a younger player. And then Seam couldn't get his visa, you know, when they were really hitting stride, couldn't go. They had to play with Decimate. And now Clay is taking a step back as well. So I feel for him because they're in a lose-lose situation. When you're young like Mac, like Hydra, even Seam, and you have a player like Clay, who is their IGL, who is their leader, he's done this, he has the experience, and he does take a step back. Now you don't know what the hell to do. Because now you have someone like Seam, who I think could be an IGL, but he's never really been in that role, like been that solo guy. And Mac and Hydra, you have to feel like a lot of how they not only think inside of COD, but just act as a professional is from Klay. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was teaching these guys, these young guns. So now that he's not there and they bring Diamond Con back in, now Diamond Con's got to fill Klay's role, who Klay's been one of the best ARs all year. It's hard. They don't, like, they're just not on the same page. And it couldn't have happened at a worse time. So honestly, if we could put them lower, I probably would have, you know, but it's just like, you can't. They just don't look good. And it sucks to see, because I really enjoyed watching them play and really competing with the other top teams. But right now, it's just, they're just not there.
I mean, I think Ian touched all the bases perfectly, right? On top of all the tough things that have happened to them, at the core of the game, Klay is actually super, super good at this game. So not like after all of that, they lose one of the better players in this title. That doesn't help like at all. It's a tough spot, and I mean that's why they're in the 8th spot. They're the worst of the teams currently that are going to champs. They're in the worst form, but we do know that they have that ability. I don't know if Klay's gonna come back. I'm not in the NYSL camp. I don't know what's gonna be, but as long as they know who to practice with and what they're going to do going forward, I do think that they can somewhat bounce back. But I'm afraid that if Klay doesn't come back and their mind's not right, they're not going to be a potential contender. And that's where they were now for 2 to 3 stages. They were a legitimate contender in this league, and it's tough to see them fall so low from where they were.
Yeah, none of us want to see a competitor fall off. Let's talk about Los Angeles Thieves. Then Pacman, they move up 1 place to 7th. They were in 8th, and they reverse swept OpTic, but minor moves for them though. You guys didn't move them up more than just 1.
Well, it's just when I compare them to the rest of the field, they haven't looked the best, and they were 1 map away from probably remaining in that 8th spot if they continue to get bodied like that by OpTic. But they did win, and they did climb up. It's just they're a team that I need to see consistency out of. That's my only thing with them. We do know that they have incredible talent, and when they start to get the ball rolling, it's scary, right? Like what they did to OpTic, who was the hottest or one of the hottest teams in the entire CDL. That's huge to be able to make a comeback like that against a team of that stature. So when we're getting to this point of the power rankings, let's say, all these guys are good. Like these guys are solid teams who can create upsets, who can go about making those runs. It's just the bottom end, I'm not sure that they're consistent enough to take it all the way, to make it all the way to a winner's final, to make those long losers runs. I'm not sure they're consistent enough to do that.
Yeah. I mean, look, Katie, I would have loved for LAT to have been higher up on the list. I really would have. But like John said, it's just their inconsistency. Because they did reverse sweep OpTic, one of the hottest teams, one of the best teams in the game. But now looking past, you know, this whole group stage, the NYSL team that they, you know, 3-2'd and barely, they could have lost to that series as well, has not been good. I know they had Klay at the time. Then they beat a London. They were kind of competitive versus FaZe, but then they lose to Paris. You know, it's so hit or miss for them right now. And it's really hard to kind of gauge where they're at, because I feel like realistically, depending on the day, they could beat, you know, a team like FaZe, but then they could also lose to a team like LAG. Yeah. And it's hard. They need to find just a balance, and they need to really be able to put the teams that they're supposed to beat away easy, like a confident, easy, smooth, free win. They can't be doing these game 5s, whatever the case may be.
Let's talk about Florida, guys. You moved them down 1. They didn't have to worry about a game 5 because they got 3-0'd by Minnesota, and they got
that ain't right.
That's I don't know. I don't know. Florida's the most confusing in the team. They're the most confusing team in the CDL to me, because when they look good, I mean, they look really good every single time they're winning. I know it's easy to say, oh, when teams are winning, they look good. Yeah, obviously, but something about Florida, the way they win, they like, because of them outslaying everyone and how flashy other players look, like they're just something about it. They just look strong when they're out there winning, but when they're not on the same page, Ian talked about this last week, and they're not outslaying, it goes from looking super good, like you're confident in all their abilities, to all right, man, what are these guys like? What are these guys doing? And it happened again. It happened in the last stage. It's happening this stage. Their top end potential is up there. Like, they can be a championship team. I've seen it. They have.
We've said it all year. I feel like
player to player, they're up there. Like, not many people are more talented than Skies. Not many people are talented than Awakening. Neptune is clearly coming to his own. There's not many subs better than him. Havoc, okay, you can say that he could maybe an average sub in the league, but he also is a leader, a vocal guy, really good S&D player. He's a solid piece. There's not many rosters that should be that much better than them, but then they falter. Like, they fall off. Their teamwork falls apart. They're not breaking hills correctly. It's just, they're so confusing to me, but at the same time, I know they can beat anyone.
I mean, I got experience with that too, Katie. You know, I said it when they beat Empire. It's not ever clean. They got outslayed by a lot. You know, I was on a team that kind of had to do the same, and that is just not a consistent way to play. And that's why you can see them they beat a team like Empire, but then get absolutely bodied by Minnesota. Because if they're not getting those kills, they're not a team like Toronto. Just really fundamentally sound.
They're not methodical
team. Yeah, at all. So it's, if they found, say, some sort of like consistency in playing fundamentally correct, they'd be disgusting, because they have the talent, like John said. When in terms of talent, they're up there with the best teams in the game. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they're whatever.
But on the flip side of that matchup, guys, let's highlight our CDL Power Rankings Biggest Mover presented by KontrolFreek, and that is the team that swept Florida Mutineers. Minnesota ROKKR moving up 2 spots to number 5. I think a solid move for them. A good week. And Pacman, Minnesota, you're bumping them up to 5th.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something in their hardpoint that I haven't seen in the longest time, and that's them being able to actually hold down setups versus another really good team. And they looked phenomenal, really. They took care of business. They're clutching in the search and destroys, and they're dominating in the control. Here's my thing with them. I feel like it kind of went under the radar to me that MajorManiak has started to play better and better and better. Because remember, he came back into the lineup in the middle of the season. And I think that because of his role, people don't really talk about it as much because it's much harder to get back into it as a sub. But he seems to become more and more comfortable with the team. And I think that they're starting to gel, and it's the perfect time. And I think a lot of it has to do with him individually playing better, being way more consistent across the board. I don't think he's ever been like the star player, explosive type, but he's always been that guy that's a rock for the team. And I think when he first came in, he was up and down. But now that he's found his consistency and the team is working around him really well, I think that Minnesota is on the right track. Like, unfortunate they have to play the FaZe first, but they historically play them pretty well, you know? So they should have as much confidence as anyone else should have going against FaZe. So maybe they'll take that one.
I think one thing to talk about too is they're kind of the opposite of Florida, Katie, in the sense of, not saying that they're not talented, but I do feel like Minnesota is a very fundamentally sound team. I mean, they're a team that they're going to be able to, at least right now, beat the teams that they're supposed to. You know, their 2 losses in this group were from Toronto and Dallas, which you would expect. You know, you would expect them to lose to those teams because those teams are better. But they will beat the teams that are below them because they do play methodically. They are very fundamentally sound. Yes, I think they might have some issues in respawns, even though it looked like they had absolutely none in the series with Florida. But that is a good thing because they have the consistency about them. And to see that series versus Florida against a team that we know of a lot of talent, see them basically break them down, is a good sign moving forward. You know, maybe they finally figured out their hardpoint struggles, their respawn struggles, hopefully, because this team does have talent. They have a lot of talent, like John said. They have superstar players in Preistahh, in Attach, in Standy. MajorManiak is also fantastic, and he's just that rock player, that really solid, consistent player. So they have a lot of good things to look forward to, but they just need to, like, now step it up because they're beating the teams that they need to beat, even the teams that are around them. But we need to really see them take it to Empire, a FaZe, Toronto, you know, I really want to see them turn up at this major because they are a top 5 team in the game. And I would put money against basically every team below them in the rankings right now that they would win the series majority of the time. So they look good, and I don't want to say anything negative, but I want them to hit that next level. I really do.
They're right there. I mean, they're right on the edge of that next level, in my opinion. It's just, can they make that consistent push in those respawns to, you know, always be in the game? As long as they're always in the game, I feel like they have the players and the potential to always clutch up. And I mean, I think that they're
if you're there, you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Why not us? If you keep it a game. I think what John said too, Katie, I just want to give a little bit more love to MajorManiak. I do think a lot of their growth and improvement is from him, you know, because we've seen it with other players like Vivid on Empires. You need to give him a little time, because even though he was on the team in the beginning of the year, when you go into challengers, you're kind of out of rhythm. He looked a little uncomfortable, but each series he looks more on pace with the rest of the team, comfortable. I know he's a great leader, a great communicator. So it's huge. If he can really get hot at the right time this year as an individual, I do think that he can help amplify this Minnesota team into kind of that top 4 and potentially competing for a championship.
Well, if they want to get into top 4, they'll have to deal with OpTic at some point. OpTic sitting in that 4th place spot in the power rankings. You did not move them from last week, though. So
John's gonna get hated because people are gonna toast him.
So when you look at OpTic, yes, they got reverse swept by LA Thieves, but you keep them static at 4.
Kind of like after they won and we kept them static at 4, and people were saying that we didn't know how to do power rankings.
The audacity.
That's funny.
It would have been funny if we moved, like, they put LA. Can we put LAT above them?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so now that they lost, we're supposed to move them all the way down, right? You guys don't know how power rankings work. It's like, no, we're taking a compilation of what we've seen throughout the year. And OpTic, yeah, they got reverse swept. But at the end of the day, they had a really good group stage. They look really strong. I feel like Scump is playing his best Call of Duty in a long time. He's a beast. I think that the team's still going to be confident going forward. And as long as they are, I think they should be fine. Honestly, I mean, it's just a rough couple maps. But at the end of the day, fantastic team. And I think all the players are peaking at the right time individually.
Them beating FaZe holds far more weight to me than them losing the Thieves.
Yeah. I mean, but what John said is right, Katie. Like, to all the internet trolls out there, where after OpTic beat FaZe, they're like, how do you not move OpTic? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, if we did these rankings purely off of one series, it's like, okay, OpTic beat FaZe last week. Let's put them above FaZe. Oh, OpTic got reverse swept. Now they're 7th. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it comes down from a sample size, and it's hard. It's hard to move them above any of the top 3, but they're there. Like, I could say they could easily overtake multiple teams after this major, in that top 4 or top 3, excuse me. But we really need to see more sample size when it matters, when the pressure's at its highest, because we know all these top teams are good. Like, if you're in the top 4, you're one of the best teams in the game, and any of the top 4 could realistically win an event, win a major, you know. So I don't really think their reverse, well, yeah, they got reverse swept by LAT matters much. I think maybe they were just a little overconfident after that win versus FaZe, and then being up 2-0 in a dominant fashion.
The way they were up 2-0 was crazy.
Yeah, like, yeah, it wasn't close at all. Well, John and you probably haven't been there, Kitty, but like, I've been there. You know, you win the first 2 maps, it's easy, and then all of a sudden, you know, you take a sip of water, you're getting smoked 5-0 game 5. You're like, what the hell happened? So I'm not really worried about it. It happens. It happens. They still got first in their group, and that's big. That's the most important thing that I could take away from OpTic is now they have no excuses going this major. They need to have a great event.
They need to have a great event, and that event will inevitably involve them probably playing at least one of these people. Atlanta, Dallas, Toronto are your top three. Atlanta not moving out of the first place, so I kind of just want to focus on Dallas and Toronto. They flip-flop Dallas now in second, Toronto down to third. Is there anything behind that, Ian, beyond the fact that Dallas just beat Toronto, or is it pretty much just that matchup came down to it? Dallas beat them. It's enough at this point to move them up.
I mean, that has a little bit to do with it, but I think when you just look at a whole of these past couple weeks, I think Dallas is heating up. Me and John have said it. They're getting hot at the right time, similar to last year. And Toronto, while they still are a really good team, one of the best teams, they're kind of cooling off. And it's one of these things is you could argue that it should be swapped. And I don't think me or John would say you're wrong because all these teams are so close. But I just think right now, especially the direction that Empire is moving and how the players are looking, you got to give them a little respect and move them up.
Yeah, I mean, this is 2 wins in a row over Toronto now for them. And, I mean, they look super strong throughout. To win this last one the way they did and get that first seed, I feel like they've earned it. I mean, they did get second at the major as well. Like, it's not just one match. They got second in the major as well. They took it all the way down to the wire on LAN. And we just know that these guys have all the promise in the world, right? So, I mean, I don't really think it's anything against Toronto. I do feel like maybe they have cooled off a little bit. But that's just because their high was so damn high, right? They were about to pass Atlanta's streak of consecutive CDL wins. Like, so, yeah, they've cooled off a little bit, but that does not mean that they're not a top team. And they could easily pass Dallas back up at the major. It is what it is, but these 3 teams are the most special teams in the league, for sure. Just top to bottom, the strongest rosters right now, and the most cohesiveness. So, I mean, this is we're at that point of the year where they just have to go out and prove it. That's it. All they have to do. They can move back up in these power rankings.
We'll have to see how everything plays out. Guys, as always, let us know what you think of the power rankings, anything you would see differently, or if you think that Ian and John got it spot on, please do let us know in the comments. But that'll be it. Power rankings, guys. We'll have to wait and see what moves around for the major, but we're in the home stretch, guys. 1 major and champs coming up. We'll see where the power rankings fall once major number 5 is over.